Welcome to Brave Words, true stories told well. I'm Rob Carlton.
And I'm Adrienne Ferreira. Our story today is from Lesley Nord. Lesley worked for 17 years at both Gosford and Wyong mental health units as a patient advocate. Her role was to help people through the system and give patients a voice to make a positive difference in their lives.
Today's story was recorded at the Lion's Den in Gosford, and it's called Where Are the Clowns?
Come with me on a dark journey. Stay close and we will come out the other side. I suffered from major depression and post-traumatic stress for years. In the late 70s, I became suicidal. I felt my family would be better off without me. My husband took me to Parramatta Psych Centre to be admitted. Arriving late at night outside the unit, we saw the porch light was on. We knocked and waited. After some time, a nurse appeared, unlocked the door and sent my husband away. I felt totally alone and terrified. I followed her down a dimly lit hall and into a small room where a male nurse was sitting at a desk. The only light was the desk lamp. Without looking up, he pointed and said, "Empty your bag on the table over there." Then came the questions. Name, address. Are you on any medications? Have you got anything hidden? Look inside her mouth, nurse. Have you got any children? What are their ages? My voice was hardly audible now. Yes, I have 3 boys. Mark is 3, Christopher is 12 months, and Stephen is 2 months old. Why are you here instead of looking after them? He demanded. I was sent here, I replied. Take her to the toilet block. A female nurse pushed me out the door and across the hall. She threw a thick gown at me, with the name of the hospital written in big letters on the back. Get undressed. Come on, we haven't got all day. If you don't start removing those clothes, we'll do it for you. I was shocked. As I removed each piece, she commented on the way I did it. There was nowhere to hide. I was cold and frightened. Gown on, I was pushed back into the room in which I'd come in. More questions fired at me. Any operations? When? Where? Scars? Any birthmarks? I was taken to a bed in the ward and told not to make a noise till morning. The door slammed shut. I heard the key in the lock click. In the dim light, I saw that the ward had 5 other beds with strangers in. I cried myself to sleep. Over the next few weeks, we were herded like cattle from the ward to the day room, then the dining room and back to the ward. I was made to take large quantities of medication. It made me feel trapped in a bubble and slowed my reaction. No one was allowed to sleep during the day. If you did nod off, you were shaken awake. Wake up! Every moment was watched. I had no idea it was like this. I needed to get out of there. As soon as the staff were busy with another patient, I made my move. I ran out of the day room, crossed the road, onto some uneven land. I could see a fence in the distance and I thought, if I could get to the fence, I'd be free. Then I heard it, a car coming up behind me. I glanced over my shoulder. It was like something from the Keystone Cops, male nurses bulging out the windows. I kept running, but my pink fluffy slippers were slipping off. The car approached and a young male nurse jumped out and ran along beside me. He said, I'm in the Army Reserve and I can run all day. I stopped and looked at him. A tall, thin boy, pimpled face, no older than 19. I thought, I'll never get out of here. I was marched back to the ward. I was put on different medication that increased my suicidal thoughts. A few weeks later, I escaped a second time. I climbed onto a pipe over a bridge railing that spanned the Parramatta River. I was pulled back by a nurse and taken back to the ward. Over the following months, I saw a lot of mistreatment. No one had any hope things would improve. I started to sing in my head my own version of a popular song at the time. Where are the clowns? Don't bother, they're here. It summed up what was happening. On the 6-bedded ward, there were often problems among the patients. When something went wrong, the staff locked the door and watched from the office window. We were left to fend for ourselves. I tried to find a space where I wouldn't get caught up in the violence. It left me with even more trauma. No one asked if we were okay. One day, a woman was brought in under the influence of drugs. Once the drugs wore off, she came at me, put her hands around my neck and started to choke me. The staff just watched from the office. I almost passed out before the staff came in and gave her more drugs. Once the drugs wore off, she choked me again. She choked me 4 times before the staff realised that she was doing it on purpose, attacking me so that she could get more drugs. The same Army Reserve nurse who told me could run all day gave me some advice. Pull your arms up under hers hard and fast. That'll break a hold. The next time she tried to choke me, I managed to hit her on the head. She never did it again. Where are the clowns? Fights often broke out in the day room. Those of us not fighting would move to the corners or try and get out the door. I saw everything. Patients fought staff before a needle went in their backsides. Then they'd move around all day like zombies. One man who had a lot to say came to the centre of the room, looked at me and said, "Could you look after my Bible? And I'm sorry you have to see this." He went away, and when he came back, he was naked. He yelled that we were all sinners and would go to hell. Once he'd finished, he got dressed, apologised and thanked me for looking after his Bible. On Christmas Day, I had day leave and was waiting for Charles to pick me up. Everywhere I looked, people were crying. They said no one wanted them. They were stuck in hospital. I really felt for them. How could they be unwanted on Christmas Day? If I could have, I would have taken them all home. Sometimes Charles would bring in the babies to see me. The other patients would talk and gently play with Stephen. He had just learnt to sit. They'd tell me how beautiful my babies were. The whole atmosphere changed. It became peaceful. After Christmas, I was transferred to Cumberland House, a round building just outside the main gate. In the middle was an open area with a stream and snapping turtles. This was an experimental unit. I was told by Dr. P that he would break me down completely and rebuild me. This included trying to break my marriage. Every morning we had to attend group meetings. My friend Janet was part of the group too. I heard things that would blow anyone's mind, but there was no care given, just more cruelty. And the patients were encouraged to be cruel too. During these sessions, I'd visualised a dark walled area with barriers being slammed shut, red flashing lights and sirens blaring, a warning of imminent danger. I'd hear doors being bolted and windows shut in my mind. I'd sing to myself over and over while looking in on the numb feeling. Janet and I clung to each other, both victims of child abuse. There was one day I will never forget. It all started as usual. We were herded into the group room. The meeting was a normal, disturbing event. Janet wasn't there. She was sick in bed. After the meeting, I went to see her. She asked me to sit next to her. "Lesley, I don't feel well. Please don't leave me." "I won't. Is there anything I can do?" "No, just sit with me." "Okay. You know, you're the only one I can talk to. It's the same for me. My brain's in slow motion. I can't think properly." Janet said, "I feel the same." "Oh, I've just spilt my tea all over me." "No, you haven't. Your cup's on the table." Janet started having a fit. I called for help. The staff ran from the office, pushed me out of the room and slammed the door shut. I stood staring at the door. What's happening? After what seemed like hours, the staff finally opened the door. One of them said, "You should have called us early. We could have saved her." "What?" "She's dead." "Janet, but I was only talking to her a little while ago." I stood in the hallway not knowing what to do. I felt like it was my fault. Why did I let her die? Later, I saw Janet wheeled out on a trolley. I was placed in the next room with 3 other girls and a nurse just to make sure I didn't follow Janet. 2 weeks later, I was the only one left on the ward. Everyone else was on leave. The staff were sitting chatting in the office. I was so tired. I just couldn't keep fighting to stay alive. I tried to take my own life. An hour later, the nurse checked on me. I was transferred back to the ward I'd come from in a state. I had so many tests I became a pincushion. The doctor terrified me. None of the treatments worked, but I'm not surprised. Looking back on this saga, who the hell would break people who are already broken? Cumberland House was closed not long after that. I spent 18 months in hospital, most of it in Cumberland House. I felt I was being pounded from an unseen force, while deep down in a coal mine with no way out, blackness was all I could see. I discharged myself because I wasn't making headway. In fact, I was going backwards. My story is much like thousands of others. But I did get better. After several admissions to different units, including Gosford, they changed my medications until they found the ones that worked for me. I encountered a couple of doctors who really cared. My loving, supportive husband stayed with me throughout. It has been like 6 years since my last episode. I'm now able to cope with most things life throws at me. I've made some changes in my life, and part of this would help others where I could. I saw an ad 20 years ago for volunteers to help patients in Mandala. I applied, did the training and started my journey as a volunteer. Not long after that, I became an advocate for people with mental health issues. I was employed for 17 years. I helped in practical ways to bring them small comforts and simple kindness. I encouraged the staff to be understanding and compassionate to each other as well. Depression is often misunderstood, even by those who suffer it. We don't always know why we feel depressed. What I hate being told is, pull yourself together. I see my head in one corner, body somewhere else, my arms and legs in another. My head then calls back to my body, saying, come back. My arms and legs, come back. I just hope my body parts go back where they should, or I'll be in trouble. If my head's on backwards, I can see what's coming, but I'll be tripping over everything. If we could simply pull ourselves together, we would. It would be a lot easier than the darkness, but there is a way out. What I now understand is this: you can't change history, but you can learn from it. Thank you for staying with me. Look after each other. Take care.
Thank you for that story, Lesley. I know it took a lot to write it and to share it publicly. Lesley didn't start to learn to read till she was 14, and then she was sent out to work that same year. So she's always struggled with literacy, but she always knew she had stories, but she really had very little confidence. And then when I first met Lesley, it was during a community introduction to life writing that I was running in the libraries up here on the Central Coast. And it was through that just little introduction that she kind of came to understand that she did have a voice and that her stories were valuable and that she was determined to write them down and get them out.
I might just jump in there though. She already knew she had a voice in that she knew that she was an effective advocate for patients.
Yeah, that's true.
At the hospital. And so I think that's an important distinction to make, because people know in their day-to-day lives that they're making a difference when they wander around, they have their chats. She had this experience and that she knew she could help. But for some reason, people sometimes think, gosh, if I write that down, that's above my station. Or if I write the story down and want to get it to a bigger audience than this immediate, but that's above my station. That was what she had to overcome.
Yeah, and because back in the day when she was struggling to read and learn to read and write, she was basically just treated as stupid and told she was stupid. So she had this sort of very low sense of her own capabilities. And yet she's a really natural storyteller, she's She brings these vivid details in. She can dramatise in a way that allows us to be immersed in her experience. So she's a really effective storyteller. It was just really learning a few techniques for Lesley. But also she worked really hard, and she has a bit of dyslexia, so she was a bit nervous about reading, the piece out in public, but she took her time and she practiced. She was just really determined to share that message, really, of her experience, but also that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that if she can survive something like that, then anybody can. And I thought, it was that sort of desire to communicate that and to give other people hope that really drove her to overcome perhaps her lack of confidence around writing.
It was an extraordinary night at the theatre. I remember her husband, Charles, was there, sitting in the front row, an elderly man, bearded, balding, and crying, just watching his wife. And remember, Charles was a young man when Lesley was admitted into Parramatta, into the mental health unit, or the madhouse, as it was called back then, with those 3 kids under 2?
Under 3.
Well, there was a 3-year-old, a 12-month and a 2-month-old.
And then the baby.
So we're talking about really young parents and a woman who's just clearly suffering postnatal depression. And yet the system treated her like a prisoner.
And punitively, like really cruelly. And, that line that she says, this sort of in Cumberland House, these kind of experimental techniques where the doctor said, I'm going to break you down and build you up. And she just reflects on that and says, why do you need to break people that are already broken? This bizarre methods and attitudes. And a lot has changed, obviously, since the 70s. But, it's to see Charles there, who's been by her side through all of that, was really powerful. It was a really amazing thing to witness.
Never trust anybody that says, we're going to break you down and build you up. The first time I came across that sentence was at NIDA years and years ago as a young actor, going, well, that's what we do here. We break you down and we build you up. And I remember at the time meeting some people that taught at NIDA. I don't think you're qualified to do that. So I think anyone that kind of looks at someone...
it's culty. It's got cult. It's a red flag for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and this is another story where we've got a woman sharing her experience. And she's a tiny little bird of a creature, and yet the power that she had as she sat on that stage reading that story out, it was profoundly moving. And it was just another one of those great insights into someone who's had a life completely different to mine, and yet she just sort of opened my heart to her troubles.
And she did say too that, writing has really allowed her to sort through some of these memories and feelings and kind of make sense of them and kind of clarify them. So that whole process of putting her experience on the page has been really, really empowering for Lesley, and we thank her very much for her story.
Yeah, so if there's, any young mums out there that are wandering around and thinking, goodness me, I thought I was just going to be flooded with love and this was going to be a joyride, and you're feeling a little overcooked and a little hard done by, you might have feelings that you're not at all happy with. Share them.
Yep, you're not alone.
You're not alone. So Lesley, thanks so much for all of that.
And thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.